Good morning, you guys, and happy Saturday. It is Amanda and Barron with Kickin'Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio, 104.3 FM and 1220 AM. And we are
not in studio.
No, we are not. We are not. This is so awesome. So we are here at Venti's with Dino. Good morning.
Good morning.
But really quick, I have to give a shout out to our sponsor for this first half, which is Odd Mo's. So if you guys are looking for a nice, healthy, amazing pizza, call Odd Mo's Pizza. They deliver. You can go pick up. So all the things. They've got amazing beer that helps sponsor Kickin'Cancer as well. So huge shout out to them.
Yeah.
All right. I'm so excited.
So what's exciting, Dino, is for the last 3 weeks, she has been so excited for today. She's like, we're going to go to Venti. She's been so excited for today to happen.
Yes.
Welcome to Venti.
We're
Thank
so
you.
thrilled to be here.
Thank you.
So a couple of things we do just to kind of get the show rolling is we talk about last week's guest, which was interesting because we had a guy named John, who we called Oregon John.
Oh, yeah.
Because he has a partner in Australia, in Sydney, named Aussie John. and so Aussie John actually called in from Sydney for the radio show last week. And they have a really cool business.
Forever Stories.
It's called Forever Story. And basically you go to their website and it's $49.95, I think, but then you can put all these memories digitally on there. I thought that was so cool.
So it keeps their story forever, if you will.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was our guest last week.
Yep.
Excellent.
But the other thing we've been doing, and I found this a bit fortuitous, I was reading through this before we started recording. We've been going through this magazine, 100 Disease-Fighting Foods. Today's food is pumpkin seeds.
I love pumpkin seeds.
Well, you're going to love what this says then.
Okay.
It says pumpkin seeds are one of the best sources of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids.
Okay.
Guess what we have a lot of here at Venti's?
Plant-based food.
Plant-based foods.
Yeah, that's our angle for sure.
Yeah, we'll get more to that here in a little bit. So it has this thing that it's called alpha linoleic acids, or ALA.
Okay.
Only a small fractions of ALA gets converted into DHA, which are these omega-3 fatty acids that are found in fatty fish like salmon.
Okay.
So typically you're getting your omega-3s from salmon, but now you're getting it straight from the plant,
I love that.
right? And it says, however, the benefit of ALA includes heart protection, reduced blood sugar, and anti-inflammation.
Wow, those are all three huge.
Yeah.
Okay. Pumpkin seeds for the win.
Yeah. Well, and you're going to love this. It's how to enjoy them. Sprinkle these seeds on fruit salad, mixed green salads, or yogurt. Add them to your stir fries. Cook them in your vegetables. Mix them with other seeds. I mean, just all kinds of ways to make and use pumpkin seeds.
I love them in bread.
In bread?
I know that's an odd one, but they are phenomenal with bread.
Interesting.
Yes, like Dave's Killer Bread does one with
yes.
the pumpkin seeds
seeds,
all
it's
over it.
delicious.
Oh my gosh, it's
That's
so
actually
good.
one of my favorite. I forgot about that. That's my favorite breads.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before I started making my own bread, I would seek out the ones that had pumpkin seeds.
Yes.
Now I need to dabble in making them with pumpkin seeds myself.
Well, the exciting thing about today's show is we're going to have this wonderful conversation around this table, and then we're going to go in the kitchen.
Okay.
And I think you're going to show us some uses for pumpkin seeds
Yes,
in the kitchen.
we use papitas. Papitas is what we call them here.
Okay.
In our lentil mushroom patty, which is our vegetarian, vegan, plant-based patty that we use in our hamburgers here.
Okay.
Yes, it's scratch made in our kitchen.
Okay.
And yes, we've tuned into the benefit of pumpkin seeds in our ingredients and what we use here to be plant forward, vegan first on our menu. And it was kind of a cornerstone in our protein offerings, in our menu.
Yeah.
So a bit fortuitous. Look, I'm just going through the book one at
Yeah.
a time, and that was the one that came up for today.
Funny. I love it.
Perfect timing.
Yes.
So the other thing I want to do is give the listeners a little update. Last Saturday was the Russ Rocks rock concert.
Yes.
Russ has been a guest on our show a couple times. He's a local gentleman. About 2.5 years ago, he had what looked like a mole on the bottom of his foot. A month later, it was the size of a quarter and jet black, the dark black. And they're like, that's not a mole. He had malignant melanoma, which is basically skin cancer that begins to spread. Went up his leg. They thought they had it stopped. Got to his lungs, got to his brain. He did tell me recently that he's not cancer-free, but they've got that cancer at bay. They've got it kind of on a pause, right? But lot of medical bills. So we put on a rock benefit concert, and just that night alone, we brought in $3,000.
That's awesome.
That's excellent.
That
And
is
let alone
awesome.
everything that came in before the event.
Right.
The dust is all settling with the accounting on how much what the check we're giving, but it looks like we raised a little over $10,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But it was just a fun concert.
Yeah, and he's going to use some of that money to get hearing aids, right?
Yeah, so I was misinformed. I thought he was getting cochlear implants. What he said, he was actually getting enhanced hearing aids because he and I are the same age, and there's a point now where he actually has to look at you in the eyes. And he did tell me during the concert, he says, I'm not sure what song is playing, I can feel the beat.
Okay.
So when he feels the beat for a little bit, he would recognize the beat of the song,
Yeah.
but he couldn't hear the song.
Okay. And this is from radiation that has damaged his hearing, right? From my understanding.
You got to get that cancer out of the brain, right? And there's damage that goes with it. But he told me this October of last year, and I honestly didn't think he was going to last till Christmas time.
No.
Wow.
No.
Yeah.
No, he did not.
But he is actively going around to chambers again.
I love it.
He's on our staff. He's our community outreach person on our staff, and he was in Corvallis this week talking about Kickin'Cancer and him. And so my update for you is Russ.
I love it.
But my even more exciting update is our next Go team, which ironically has the exact same cancer as Russ.
Oh, really?
And her name is Ashlie Mathis. And next Saturday, so today we're here at Venti's. Next Saturday we're actually going to be at the Polar Plunge.
Yes.
And Ashlie is one of the teammates that's plunging with us.
Okay.
And we will launch our next Go team, which is Go Team Ashlie.
I love it.
We're doing a couple things for her in April. The basketball team here in town, the Salem Capitals, they have a game. It's called Cancer Awareness Basketball Game. And they're going to allow Ashlie to do the ceremonial tip-off.
Okay.
So that'll be super fun.
That will be.
And then at the end of May is Cancer Awareness Weekend at the baseball stadium. So she gets to throw a ceremonial first pitch. And then the first part of June, we do a charity golf tournament, and she will be the honoree for that golf tournament. So there's a lot of things coming up through the second quarter just to show Ashlie some support.
Okay. I love that.
So there's my update.
Perfect.
But the real thing I want to get into, and for those who have listened to our other radio show, we've had Dino on for little tiny short segments about
Yes.
who is Dino and what is Venti's. But you got a little more time. So
Yeah.
give about 10 minutes.
Okay.
I can feel those 10 minutes.
Tell me how this amazing concept began 27 years ago.
29.
29 years ago. Is that corrected
Yeah.
already?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
29 years
I'm
old.
in my 30th year. January 1st was 29 years.
Wow.
So this coming up January will be 30 years for me.
Nice.
Congratulations.
And really what inspired me, thank you.
Yeah.
What really inspired me to get into the business, and I had never worked in the restaurant industry before, outside of being a fry cook for Taco Bell for like a month when I was in high school.
Okay. I think we all did that at one point in our lives.
Yes. And I was a fry guy for a while. And so this was my first attempt to be in this industry, and I thought, I might as well do it myself. But really what inspired me was to bring a healthy food offering to downtown Salem. I was living in Portland, and this was in the mid-90s, and there was this little bento cart
I know exactly what's
craze going on.
Yeah.
And there was all these little barbecue carts popping up all over town, serving the skewered chicken over rice. I've always been healthy and athletic minded, or athletic and healthy minded. I guess they both work.
Yes.
And I found myself eating at these carts, 10 times a week it almost seemed like. And I remember my brother had come to visit me in Portland one afternoon, and we went and took him to lunch at this barbecue cart. Because my older brother Mike is an inspiration for me. I always looked up to him for being an athlete, a weightlifter, health-minded, always, putting his body and mind first.
Right.
And I've used that example to kind of live my life. And so I got into, protein, meats and rice, vegetables, and that was the cornerstone of my diet. And I found these barbecue carts around town, and I was eating at them all the time. Took my brother to one who was living in Salem at the time, and we were sitting out in front of Phil's Meat Market on Northwest 23rd Street in Portland, and watched this line down the street and people getting these little chicken and rice skewers over, or chicken over rice, and this guy's serving them like every 30 seconds, and my brother and I are eating our meal and delicious teriyaki chicken. And he's like, God, this is really good. And God, this guy does good business. And we're watching this line just turn. And I looked at my brother. I said, do you have one of these in Salem? And he's like, I don't think so. We both, like, I saw the light bulb go off in his head and mine. And that began the journey for us to start doing research on what it would take to bring something like that to Salem.
Yeah. You know what's amazing, Dino, is I know exactly the cart you're talking about because I lived in Portland in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
And I know exactly the little place you're talking about.
A little strip mall,
Yep.
a little barbecue cart.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's such a tiny little room. There's maybe room for like 5 or 10 people to actually stand in there.
Yeah.
And then he's got the skewers going all the time. So you would literally grab it with this little tray, rice, put the skewers on it, and you'd leave. But like you said, there was a line all the time.
Yeah.
And back then, I kind of had the idea. You ran with the idea. But like, it's such a great business concept.
So the place you're talking about was called West Coast Bento.
Yes.
And that was across the street from Phil's Meat Market.
Oh, yeah.
So I know a little bit about the origin story here.
Okay.
So they were brothers.
Okay.
And I believe the guy that owned the West Coast Bento was a power lifter.
Okay.
Like, I think an international power lifter. And I believe he found the little bento boxes in Japan.
Because he has pictures in there of...
Okay.
Yeah, and he hybrid it and brought an American version back with the little to-go boxes. And I believe his brother, I'm not sure if the story is totally accurate, but it sounds pretty plausible. His brother apparently was the one supplying the meat. And then at some point, I think there was a little, and he's like, oh yeah, well, I'll just put my own card out here. And they just I think they went into competition with each other across the street. But I also believe that probably created some synergy for both of them.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know, I've always
Oh, yeah.
believed in that rising tide.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that probably brought more business to both of them. But the West Coast, I believe, was the original. And then the
Well, that's
meat
the one I
market
always
across the
went to.
street, was the brothers' kind of offshoot of it.
So your objective was to take that concept back in the late 90s here to Salem.
Yes, you know, when I had lunch with my brother that afternoon, and he wasn't sure if there was anything like this in Salem. And then for the next couple of weeks, because I was living in Portland and he was down here, he scoured the town and couldn't find anything. Yeah. And we were like, let's do it.
Do it.
So it took about 6 months of just kind of research, you know, learning how to cook teriyaki chicken, learning how to cook rice properly.
Yeah.
It was simple, but I wanted to make sure I did it right.
Right.
And I hosted a lot of barbecues on the weekends for my friends and family, and kind of honed in that craft of just a simple chicken teriyaki over rice. We did beef, prawns, and vegetables.
Okay.
That was our starting menu. So as we looked to plant ourselves in Salem, what originally was an obstacle for us to overcome became very fortuitous for the journey of Venti's. And what we ran into was the police, or not the police, but the fire marshal in Marion County was not good with putting barbecue carts on the sidewalk.
Okay.
He didn't like that propane tank. And what we had learned, it's kind of up to the jurisdictions on whether they allow it or not. So it kind of shot our dreams down for a minute. We were like, oh wow, Salem's not going to let this happen.
Right.
And so my brother, just being the entrepreneur that he was and is, just started beating the pavement here downtown, and was just looking for little brick and mortars, and we were wondering if we could bring it inside.
Yeah.
And he walked into the Reed Opera House,
Which, by the way, is right there.
right across the street.
Right
Yeah.
across the street from where we're at right now.
Yeah, I've been on Court Street for 29 years. I've been in
Wow.
this space for 17, and I was in the Reed Opera House for 12.
Which is literally a rock's throw away
That's
from
Oh yeah, you could see it from across the
Yeah,
street.
yeah.
But my brother walks into the ice cream shop, and you know, he walks in and said, "This is a nice little space here." And a little Chinese lady owned it at the time, and her name was Rosa. And she came around the corner, and my brother bought some ice cream from him, and it was just kind of sitting there eating the ice cream, looking around, and she's kind of looking at him. He goes, "I think she thought I was going to rob her."
Right.
She's kind of looking like, you know, "Can I help you?" And he's like, "Well, you know, this is kind of an odd question, but would you be interested in selling your location here?" And she kind of looked at him, and he thought he had offended her. And she goes, "Hold on." And she walked into the back, and my brother thought she was going to come out with like a bat or something. And she came
outta
out
here.
with her lawyer's business card. And she goes, "It's so interesting that you asked me that question, because just last week I was speaking with my attorney, and I'm ready to retire and move on."
Wow.
Oh, how crazy.
Like
Just
perfect timing.
Just the
Literally.
timing.
Perfect timing.
So my brother went into negotiations and worked out a deal to buy what was at the time called the Ice Cream Cafe.
Okay.
Which is a little ice cream shop in the Reed Opera House that served mostly ice cream but had some fried foods. She accepted the offer. And we went head on into it. Oh, we're going to do this. And then we realized after we had signed these contracts that we had to put a vent in to actually cook this meat. And so we started doing kind of the financing around the logistics and realized we didn't have all the money it would take to vent out the Reed Opera House because it's like $1,000 a foot to put a grease hood in.
Oh, geez, yeah.
So again, my brother, who was just on his toes and quick-witted, quick-minded, started doing research and found a company in Vancouver, Washington called Fesco, and they had just released these halogen light bulb pizza ovens, which were non-ventilated pizza ovens that cooked with, what are they called? The 1,500 watt halogen light bulbs.
Oh, okay.
Right, so it had 8 1,500 watt halogen light bulbs in these ovens that you could preset to different heat intensities. And they used it for pizza, so we realized you can cook meat in this thing, and it would get so hot it would evaporate the fat content, and it didn't require ventilation.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So we started our operations in these little flash bake ovens. We like to call them high-powered Susie bake ovens.
Yeah.
And we.
I love that.
That's really what it was.
Anyone can envision what you just said.
It's really what it was.
Yeah.
And we had these 8 1,500 watt halogen bulbs, and I cooked in those ovens for 12 years.
Wow.
And we did chicken, beef, yakisoba noodles, vegetables, prawns, and that was kind of the beginning of our healthy menu.
And then when did you come across the street to here?
So we opened up in '96 in the Reed Opera House, and we moved into the Pierce building across the street at 325 Court Street in 2008.
Okay.
So I was in there for 12 years, and we've been here now for 17.
Okay.
And when we moved across the street, we finally were able to expand our kitchen, put a grease hood in, start growing our menu, grow our craft beer taps. I was one of the first in town to really go after the craft beer surge that was happening in the Northwest.
Yep.
And I kind of rode that wave for the better part of a decade.
Okay.
And so we put our taps in, built our kitchen out, started expanding our menu, which kept a very healthy base of chicken, rice, meat and rice, vegetables. But then we started also adding comfort food. Part of my mission as a restaurateur is not only to offer healthy food, but also comfort food in a setting that gives people a place to congregate.
Yeah.
You know, so not only did I grow as what my vision for the restaurant was going to be, not just serving healthy food, but at that point Salem was kind of a food desert and kind of a culture desert.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to create a kind of a colorful, vibrant, modern place where people can meet, eat, and just have community.
Well, I would say you've accomplished that.
Yeah.
You know, we work at it every day.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's as we started growing the menu and decided, well, not everybody wants to eat every meal for health. So we started ordering some comfort stuff. We do pastas and other things that people might consider comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do some comfort food here, but still the base of our menu is healthy.
So I want to give you some interesting data to back up your menu, only for sake of time. I love your story.
Okay.
I hate to cut you off,
Yes.
but I don't want to run out of time here.
fill this
so,
time.
yeah, I know. Like you said, no problem filling that
Oh,
time.
yes.
So this is a book we've referenced a lot. And you know what, I showed this and immediately he went and bought this book.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
I
it.
love it, yeah.
Yeah, and so we're going from the chapter here that's actually called Food is Medicine.
What's the name of the book?
Thank you. Yeah, for the ones that are not looking.
Yes.
And if you are watching YouTube, you can see it. But it's actually called the Anti-Cancer Living Book.
Okay.
And if you go to kicking-cancer.org, on our resources, you'll see a picture of this book.
Okay.
But there's a chapter here that's called Food is Medicine, and this is going to validate some of the stuff that Dino was just talking about. It says, excess, now that's the key word, excessive consumption of red meat. Now, it doesn't say don't eat red meat. It says excessive consumption has been related to more than a dozen cancers,
Okay.
including breast, prostate, colon, and liver. Basically, if you're eating bacon every morning, burgers every night, and steak on the weekends, you could be creating an environment for chronic inflammation, and we know inflammation fuels cancer growth. But then, another section here I thought was intriguing as well, and it's going to back up some of the stuff that Dino was just talking about, is there's this gentleman, his name is David Katz, and he's a MD, and he was comparing two different diets and the similarities between these two diets. One of them, and he was doing this at this Old Ways Common Ground conference. So that's where he was talking about his findings. And what he found was he took the paleo diet, which is predominantly animal protein, and then he had the Mediterranean diet, which is predominantly healthy fats. So you have two vastly different diets, and as he compared those two, he says so he had people from both sides at this conference, people doing paleo, people doing Mediterranean. He said when everyone broke for lunch, he noticed that their plates looked nearly identical. Everyone had a lot of vegetables and salad, small portions of protein, some fats and some grains. There's so much noise in the nutrition diet arena, but there just doesn't have to be. I realized, this is what Dr. Kat says, I realized that we create a lot of confusion when we're all aiming for it simply this. We need to eat wholesome foods in sensible combinations.
Yeah.
We need to eat wholesome foods in sensible combination at Venti's.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's intriguing that this guy's looking at these two dramatically different diets and realize in the end, it's really wholesome foods in sensible combinations.
Real food.
You know, my perspective on healthy food has definitely evolved in my 29 years. And I've taken I took my biggest step towards being healthy really in the last 10 years when I turned vegetarian. And that's been a game changer for me, which is the perfect segue into a Netflix documentary that I watched that really sealed the deal for me called Game Changers.
Okay.
Where it's a MMA fighter who keeps getting injured and wants to fight back from his injuries the quickest way possible and finds that the vegan diet is probably the best way to do it, which also leads to all the cancer being spread in our society. You know, and they talk about the environments that we live in. I believe the majority of cancer caused in most humans is by our diet,
Yeah.
especially in this country. You know, there's a lot of stuff in our air and in our environments that probably contribute to it, but I think the biggest thing is what we're actually putting in our bodies. And there's no doubt a plant-based diet is probably the healthiest way to preserve your body and nutrition, health-wise, anti-cancer.
Yep.
You know, and I've been, you know, committed to that for the last decade, and I've never been healthier. At 57, I effortlessly can keep my weight down. I have my blood work comes back every year from my doctor. It looks good, and I've been convinced year in and year out that my choice to go vegetarian has been a game changer for me.
Yeah.
Well, and the phrase you used, I think it's just so critical for all our listeners, is a plant-based diet. We had a guest, he used to live here in town, a friend of mine, he moved to Texas, and he does regenerative farming. So he takes these farms, remember Dean Yeager?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So when I first met Dean, he said, and this would have been 2019, the year I started this organization, he says, just to clarify, are you advocating that people should be vegan and vegetarian? And I said, no, we're talking about plant-based. He says, good. Because it says, in my opinion, you do need some protein, but if you're going to eat protein, eat animals that eat plants.
Yes.
So if you're going to eat chicken or beef, make sure they're free range. Make sure they have access to good, you know, because what they eat is what you eat.
Yes.
The meat we have here at Venti's, free range chicken, grass-fed beef. It follows that mantra. Yeah, because I mean, that's really when you're eating animal protein, you're eating the middleman.
Yes.
You know,
That's a good way to
That
say
is
it.
a good
You're
way.
eating the middleman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got that from Game Changers, and they were talking about, you know, the myth around you can't build muscle on a plant diet, and then they look at a gorilla
Right.
that eats nothing but plants, and it's got no lack of muscle on that body.
Yeah.
So it's really, you're cutting out the middleman when you go straight to plant-based proteins. Although, like you're saying, the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it's good just to eat for pleasure and
Comfort
desire,
food.
and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, and being a restaurateur, I do find myself not very often, but trying meat that we do here at the restaurant just to make sure for the quality,
Right.
to make sure if we're working on new recipes. So,
Well,
I do
here's-
have meat come into my body sometimes, but not very often.
Yes.
So our producer is letting me know that we've run out of time. But the good news
We've
is
got a few seconds.
everything that you have just said, we are going to get to see in the next half of the show.
Excellent.
And I'm telling you, if you're listening on Saturday and you have not gone to YouTube yet, please go to the search engine, put in Kicking Cancer Productions, because we're going to do a great, and you'll see Dino with his beautiful purple. And he'll tell us why he's wearing purple in the second half.
Yeah.
I'm actually wearing yellow for Mike, who sponsors the first half, because my sister died from bone cancer, and that's yellow.
Oh, I love that.
Plus, it's a nice little combination of the purple and
Yeah.
yellow together. But again, if you're listening on Saturday morning, you really want to watch what's going to happen after the commercial break, because we're going to go in the kitchen.
Okay.
And everything we've been talking about is all theory, but it's all become practicality here after the commercial break.
Yes.
So.
Okay, I love it. Well, huge shout out to our first sponsor, which is Mike from Odd Mo's Pizza. So if you guys are looking for a yummy, healthy pizza, definitely go there. The Reggie Veggie and the Green Monster are phenomenal.
Those are your favorites.
Oh my gosh, they're everybody's favorites, right?
Yeah. They're definitely Dino's favorites.
All right, you guys, so we will be right back. Stay tuned.